We are now living in times that it's important to strengthen defense, and the infantry mines are one of them. In Finland, we are kind of taking them back to our defense capabilities.
The Finnish soldier has all the time known that if we would be in a war, we would be facing landmines from the other side.
Puhemies, on todella hyvä.
It's good that Finland has woken up to reality and withdrawn from the Ottawa Treaty on landmines.
This mine is very dangerous. It's made to kill people, not only to make like an invalid, like cut the leg or something, just to kill people.
Nobody can convince me that landmines are giving some advantage on the battlefield. They will just lay in deep of your country and wait for your civilians.
I'll tell you exactly what is going on here, and then the real action will begin. Let's go!
A military training area in Finland. Colonel Riku Mikkonen is talking to the press about the return of an internationally banned weapon, the anti-personnel mine.
The war in Ukraine has taught us that infantry mines, they are still effective weapons in battlefield, and they have still their very important role.
A border spanning more than 1,300 kilometers separates Finland from Russia. Many in the country are increasingly concerned by their eastern neighbour, and some see landmines as providing necessary protection. But others warn that these weapons could eventually pose a danger primarily to the Finns themselves.
So the anti-personnel mines, they are not spread all over, but the use of them is planned and led activity.
This is a fragmentation mine, which, when triggered, explodes and shoots shrapnel towards the enemy.
They use them in such places where there are no civilians anymore, and we also mark the minefields so they are visible for our civilians and our own troops. We also document them. We make a kind of a map where we can see where the minefields are, how many mines there are, what kind of mines there are, so it's possible to clear the minefields and the mines when needed.
During the war, I was very young, so the war in Bosnia started in 1992, and with 19 years, I had to go to the war. I was expecting a lot of things during the war, you know, that there are shooting, then there are grenades, then there is battles. But somehow I never thought about the landmines. So I was walking in some narrow road to the forest. You just hear a huge boom. And in that first moment, there was no pain because it was like I was transferred to another dimension. I couldn't understand what happened. And Everybody was afraid to come to me because they were thinking if it is minefield, how to approach. So after maybe 1 hour, it was really painful. During that time, I took my belt and on my own, I put it to stop the blood leaking, you know. And when they succeed to came to me, they put me on some truck, some vehicle, and drove to the nearest ambulance. When I came in the hospital, the doctor didn't have a time to explain me too much. They put me in the surgery, and after a few hours, I was awake in completely new circumstances.
Mr. President, it's good that Finland has woken up to reality and withdrawn from the Ottawa Treaty on landmines.
It was pretty clear already in the spring that it will go through with flying colors, that the massive majority of the parliament will be there.
Mr. President, withdrawal from the Ottawa Treaty will strengthen Finland's security and defense capability.
Anti-personnel mines are effective and affordable weapons.
There was a bit of a split within the party, and in the end, of course, in the Greens, we had 4 voting in favor, 7 against.
Mr. President, the armed forces no longer seek to acquire anti-personnel mines, which are banned under the Ottawa Treaty.
The lessons learned from the war in Ukraine, the global political situation, and the military threats facing Finland justify this decision.
Atta Harjana, a member of the Green League, voted in favour of withdrawing from the International Ottawa Convention that bans the use of anti-personnel landmines.
That is pretty straightforward. You exclude the use of anti-personnel landmines. The training, stockpiling them and everything is limited. Finland officially joined in 2012. And of course, that was a time when pretty much all of the Western countries joined or prepared to join the treaty.
But in the wake of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the debate has changed.
Russia's war in Ukraine has prompted several EU countries to reconsider their stance on anti-personnel landmines.
Lithuania, Estonia and Latvia also plan to withdraw from the Mine Ban Convention.
We, the military, will establish here the minefield between those lines.
We now know that there's a large-scale war in Europe. Russia is clearly an imperialistic nation that wants to build a sphere of influence with violence. And of course, that was a wake-up call.
What is happening in Ukraine evokes painful memories in Finland. During World War II, the country fought against the Soviet Union. Those who want to see landmines reintroduced point to that experience today.
Finland has a bit of a different trajectory regarding the defense compared to other European countries. We never gave up from the conscription system. We've always kept the idea that our military has to be prepared for conventional large-scale ground war where we defend our own countries. When we prepare for a war like in Ukraine, probably landmines are a type of weapon that actually is kind of cost-efficient and beneficial.
The demining operation is making progress. We're here today to cover this whole area.
What to say? Even though everything looks safe from this position, I feel some kind of unpleasant feeling, and I can just imagine how the people who live in this area are also living in fear because of the mines more than 30 years after the war.
Together with a mine-clearing team from the Bosnian Armed Forces, Zoran Ješić is returning to a minefield for the first time since the accident that changed his life.
Unfortunately, the problem with landmines in Bosnia is still huge. We all hoped that until now we will have a land free of mines in Bosnia, but the people are killed even today by landmines.
Since the end of the war, there have been about 1,700 more landmine victims in Bosnia. More than 600 of them died. An estimated 170,000 mines still lie buried in the ground, scattered across nearly 800 square kilometers.
It is very disappointing that we, almost 30 years after the war, have a problem with the landmines. For example, last year near Doboj there was a mine incident, unfortunately, where a young man was killed. I cannot understand the decision makers that don't want to have a strong attitude against the landmines, because that is the most cowardly weapon, and the landmine is not made to kill, but to deliver suffering to the people.
The Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine creates a situation where you have a legitimate reason to make changes in defense policy, but then it has also led, I think, to this kind of tense societal atmosphere to be used for also pushing some decisions that I think go too far.
Li Andersson of the Left Alliance previously served in the Finnish parliament and in the government. Today, she's a member of the European Parliament. Her party has unanimously rejected the idea of leaving the Ottawa Treaty.
You cannot say that defense is an irrelevant question. So, of course, I do think that Europe needs to have sufficient defense capabilities.
We need the mines to strengthen our defense so that our defense creates enough deterrence that we never have to use these mines.
But it doesn't mean that we should reintroduce the use of weapons that we have been trying to get rid of.
And we've learned from Ukraine that the way Russia fights, they respect no rules, and if Russians gain ground, it's very hard to get that back.
There were all of these strange arguments, in my opinion, posed in the discussion, saying that Finland will somehow use the mines more responsibly than other actors.
The idea that you use them in that way responsibly, that you think where you put them, you map them, and that we are ourselves able to disarm them.
Some experts even called it like this case of Finnish exceptionalism, that we will not be using the landmines in a way that is not responsible.
We're talking about the idea of fighting a war in our own territory. So of course we don't want to be poisoning with mines that we have no control over.
When we are talking about situations of war, we know that a war is never a well-organized situation where you have full control and zero space for human error. It's not only a problem during the actual wartime, but also for decades afterwards.
So as you see here, we have like a school mines. This mine, it's very danger because it's if somebody, they can put wire on this mine, and if somebody touch that wire, they just explode and spread a lot of shrapnels and of course kill. This it's for the step, and some child or woman or man, they don't differentiate it between soldier or man or woman or child or animal. It will cut your leg or something worse.
Aima Djukic works at the training center of a Norwegian aid organization. Here, on the outskirts of Sarajevo, mine clearance experts and detection dogs are trained for missions in both old and new minefields.
Currently, we have 69 dogs together with the litters. We are using only Malinois, Belgian Shepherd, because that type of breed is really eager to learn, really hard-working dogs, really easy to acclimatize in any weather condition. So first part of training is socialization, puppy socialization. They need to get used our smells, our body, our voices.
We name litters in alphabetical order. So they will all get names starting with U.
So first part of our socialization that we are coming inside in a puppy's room, but later puppies going out. We are introduce this big world for the puppies. So our training starts very early. We need to start with the on-ground searching training, using natural dog's instinct for searching for the food. So we are using, in the beginning, only food for puppies, that they have a nose down and they start to go to maintain direction.
Bravo. Fina. Sick. Kom sick.
It is big threat, but our dogs and our dog handlers are trained, so we didn't have any incident with the dogs in a fields, in the minefields.
Fina. Bravo. Bravo! Kom! Kom!
Znači, tu ćeš stat, pogledat ćeš mene i reći ću ti s kojeg ćeš broja krenuti. So this apparatus, what we are call carousel, it contains stainless steel dishes. In every dish we have some different type of background, what can dog met in a minefield during his working. And also in one dish we placed like a TNT, like a C4 or whatever. So this is the way how the dog should indicate target.
By the end of their training, the dogs are able to systematically search entire areas for mines, a skill that is urgently needed today.
Okay, so tomorrow 6 dogs going to Ukraine, and they will be part of dog handler course there in Ukraine, and they will start to search in order to clean Ukraine from the mines. Yeah, when they leave, we are a little bit sad, but we are on the other side also happy because they will serve us for purpose, for the humanity. And of course, when they are retired, they are coming back in a place where they are born, in Bosnia.
No matter what the conditions are, we can note the precise location of the landmines.
Despite the lessons learned from other wars, Finland's military and political leaders are convinced that they can use landmines in a controlled and responsible manner.
Our goal is domestic production. From a military perspective, security of supply is important. As defence forces, we have the capacity to clear these mines, for example, after a war or crisis.
It was a big problem for me, I think, first summer after I was injured. I didn't want to put short trousers, because I have had the feeling that the whole world are looking in my leg. There was, of course, some cases, especially with little children. It was strange for them. What is that plastic leg, metal leg?
Zoran has reached out to others who have suffered a similar fate.
Did it sting you? Let me get it. If it gets the prosthesis, its stinger will be damaged.
I felt the sting, but it doesn't hurt.
Wait a bit and it'll go.
I decided to found an organization that could help mine survivors, because we noticed that state and state institutions are not doing enough.
For Zoran Ješić, the idea that landmines can be used responsibly is an illusion.
It's not possible to use landmines responsibly. They could be moved with the floods, with the different kind of natural disasters. They don't think about that. In Bosnia, we had two situations that a lot of minefields were moved because of big floods.
This made it all the more shocking for him when several European countries announced their intention to withdraw from the Ottawa Treaty.
New people will be hurt with the landmines. It's not important, so-called enemy of that country, or it will be some civilians from that country.
Welcome to the Where Are You Headed Europe podcast. The development of global democracy has been a cause for concern in the 21st century, and various crises have created space for the strengthening of authoritarian tendencies. We're discussing the topic today with Left Alliance MEP Li Andersson.
From Brussels' perspective, there is concern and anxiety. It seems like things will get worse before getting better.
Having a public voice is extremely important. I say as a leftist that we engage in discussions on foreign and security policy and on defense. We need to be involved in that debate, but of course, I think combining a credible defense policy with a very strong policy for the rules-based order.
I mean, if you look at Russia's war in Ukraine right now, it's completely senseless. So we cannot count on Russia acting on a rational matter from our perspective, but rather it can be kind of aggressive, desperate, imperialistic regime.
The reintroduction of landmines has sparked a debate in Finland about security, values, and the country's role in the international order.
I think all of Europe, and especially neighboring countries to Russia, should be quite careful of using Putin as an argument to start actually doing decisions that are more in line with his worldview than what has traditionally been our own. Because we are a small country, small countries that do not have the greatest militaries, especially for us, a rules-based international system is crucial.
I mean, it is a nasty, evil weapon, that's for sure. As a soldier, as a reservist, I view it as one more tool in a toolbox to cover a flank, hope liberate troops to do something else, and so on. So I think it's a pretty pragmatic view. A Finnish reservist, a Finnish soldier, has all the time known that if we would be in a war, we would be facing landmines from the other side.
You see a general trend towards more defense investments, very little discussion on social spending, so it's only focused on defense and military capabilities and not so much on the other parts of security that's also equally important. That have to do with social cohesion, for example, that has to do with climate adaptation, other security issues that we need to be able to focus on as well.
Finland's decision demonstrates that Europe is beginning to change its stance on landmines. The question now is whether that trend might still be reversed.
I surely hope so, but I would say that not as long as we don't see a path where Russia does it. It would be great to see some good surprises for a while instead of all the bad ones, but yeah, we can't really build our policy on that, so it doesn't look that good.
Ja sad skupio, tamo skupio, ali nigdje na putu, ništa.
In 1997 we were in Slovenia. During the walking in the evening I heard some noise from the sport hall. I opened the door and I saw some guys playing sitting volleyball. They asked me to join because I like sport. I was really happy to be active in some other ways.
Zoran Ješić joined the sitting volleyball team a few years after his landmine accident. He and other landmine victims play alongside people with and without disabilities.
We started to go abroad to play international competition. I became also a member of national team. I was in European World Championship. So somehow I think for me personally sport is crucial to again go back in some life.